Want to speak real Greek from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at GreekPod101.com.
Welcome to GreekPod101.com's Ελληνικά σε 3 λεπτά. The fastest, easiest and most fun way to learn Greek. Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Χαίρομαι πολύ. Hi, I'm Chrissy. Pleased to meet you. In this series, we are going to learn basic Greek expressions. It is super easy and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you are going to learn how to introduce yourself in Greek. There are only 2 sentences you need to do it, but first it is important to clarify that in Greek, there is a difference between formal and informal language. Let's first see how Greek people introduce themselves in an informal situation. Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Χαίρομαι πολύ. Hi, I'm Chrissy. Pleased to meet you. Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Χαίρομαι πολύ. Start by saying γεια, λέγομαι, then say your name. Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Finally, say χαίρομαι πολύ. Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Χαίρομαι πολύ. And now, let's see the same sentence in formal speech. Χαίρετε, λέγομαι Χρυσή Παπαδοπούλου. Χαίρομαι πολύ για τη γνωριμία. Hello, my name is Chrissy Papadopoulou. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Χαίρετε, λέγομαι Χρυσή Παπαδοπούλου. Χαίρομαι πολύ για τη γνωριμία. So what has changed from the previous introduction? Let's take a close look at this together. Ya has been substituted with the formal greeting χαίρετε, Greek for rejoice. Λέγομαι Χρυσή has not been changed. Λέγομαι stands in both cases for my name is. However, during a formal self-introduction, we also say our last name. So I said Χρυσή Papadopoulou. Here, you would say your full name. Finally, there is one more change to the ending. We added the words για τη γνωριμία to the phrase χαίρομαι πολύ. In informal cases, we can just say χαίρομαι πολύ. Literally, I'm happy or pleased. But in formal cases, it's good to add για τη γνωριμία, which is Greek for the acquaintance, or in this case, your acquaintance. One more time. The informal way to introduce yourself in Greek is γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή, χαίρομαι πολύ. The formal way to introduce yourself is χαίρετε, λέγομαι Χρυσή Παπαδοπούλου, χαίρομαι πολύ για τη γνωριμία. Now it's time for Chrissy's insights. Greek people usually shake hands when they meet someone, sometimes extremely vigorously. So accompany your introduction with your best firm handshake. And if you're not sure if you have to use the formal or the informal greeting, the informal greeting χαίρομαι πολύ is not considered rude. It is acceptable and used widely even in formal situations. In the last lesson, we learned how to introduce ourselves in Greek. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use good manners as we thank people. Είστε έτοιμοι? Are you ready? Ξεκινάμε, so let's start. There are several ways to thank someone. Let's start with the easiest. It is just one word, ευχαριστώ. Ευχαριστώ. Ευχαριστώ means thanks. When saying thanks very much, you just need to add πολύ. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Πολύ means a lot, so ευχαριστώ πολύ is like saying thanks very much. During the last lesson, we talked about both the informal and the formal way of speaking Greek. Ευχαριστώ is a casual way to thank someone. If you want to be more formal, there is another phrase you should use. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ or σε ευχαριστώ πολύ. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ or σε ευχαριστώ πολύ. Let's break this phrase down. The σε or σας before ευχαριστώ πολύ literally means you in the second person singular and the second person plural, which is the form used for being formal in Greek. In the plain ευχαριστώ there is no you included, but here we use it and make the phrase sound more polite. Depending on the formality of the situation, we will use σε or σας. How do you answer? It's easy. There are basically 2 different ways to do it. The first is τίποτα. Τίποτα. Τίποτα literally means it's nothing, but it is the equivalent of you are welcome. The other way to say you're welcome is the expression παρακαλώ. Παρακαλώ. Literally, this phrase means I beg or please, but it has become a common and polite way to respond to someone thanking you. So when someone says ευχαριστώ to you, we can simply reply with τίποτα or παρακαλώ. Now it's time for Chris's insights. If you're not sure about whether to use ευχαριστώ or σας ευχαριστώ πολύ, keeping it simple is always your safest bet. You don't have to worry about formal or informal situations. Ευχαριστώ can be used with just about anyone, anywhere, and at any time. In the last lesson, we learned how to be grateful to people by saying ευχαριστώ. In this lesson, we'll learn some of the most common greetings used in Greece. Είστε έτοιμοι? Are you ready? Ξεκινάμε, so let's start. The most used informal greeting is ya. Ya. Ya means hi, hello, or goodbye. We use it when we meet, but also when we leave. We should only use this greeting with friends or relatives. If you want to be more formal, you need to pay attention to the time of day. The most common phrase is kalimera. Kalimera. Literally, kalimera means good day. However, we may also interpret it as good morning or good afternoon. As a rule of thumb, we can use kalimera only during the daytime, from morning until early afternoon. During the late afternoon and evening, we say kalispera. Kalispera. Espera or spera is ancient Greek for the part of the day after sunset. So kalispera means good afternoon or good evening. Kalimera and kalispera are used when we meet someone, but when we leave, we don't say them again. In this formal situation, Greek people use adio. Adio. Adio means goodbye. If you're leaving after around 8 p.m., you can say kalinichta, which literally means good night. Kalinichta. Finally, it is very common in Greek to use the informal hi we introduced in the beginning of this lesson as a parting greeting as well. Ya. Ya. Now you can greet people in many different ways in Greek. Let's review them all again. When greeting in an informal situation, we say ya. When greeting in a formal situation, we say kalimera or kalispera. When leaving in a formal situation, adio. When leaving in an informal situation, ya. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Chris's insights. In formal situations, Greek people commonly greet each other by shaking hands. On the other hand, if we meet someone we are very friendly with, we kiss each other on both cheeks. Don't be afraid to do it with your Greek friends. It's normal. In the last lesson, we learned the most common forms of greetings in Greek. Do you remember them? In this lesson, we are going to learn a very useful phrase. Do you speak English? If you find yourself in a situation where you need assistance in English, this phrase can be a lifesaver. And because you are asking it in Greek, you can be sure that everyone will understand what you're saying, even if their answer is no. Here is the informal way to say it. Μιλάς αγγλικά. Μιλάς αγγλικά. Μιλάς is to speak, and αγγλικά is English. In Greek, verbs change depending on who the subject is. The word μιλάς is conjugated from the verb μιλάω, which means to speak. By the ending s, we understand this is the second person singular. This is the informal way to say you speak. You will notice that the personal pronoun itself, the word you, is missing. This happens very often in Greek. Because the verb ending changes depending on the subject, you don't need to actually say the subject in order to be understood. To learn how to properly conjugate omega verbs like milao, please look at our Absolute Beginner series on GreekPod101.com. You can find very detailed grammar lessons and resources there. We are now going to make the sentence formal. This is done by using the formal version of you, which is εσείς. If we change the word for you, we will conjugate μιλάω differently. It becomes μιλάτε. Everything else stays the same. Μιλάτε αγγλικά. Μιλάτε αγγλικά. Adding συγγνώμη, excuse me, the sentence becomes even more polite. Συγγνώμη, μιλάτε αγγλικά. Συγγνώμη, μιλάτε αγγλικά. The responses you will receive could be one of these three. Ναι, yes. Ναι. Λίγο, a little. Λίγο. Όχι, δεν μιλάω αγγλικά. No, I don't speak English. Όχι, δεν μιλάω αγγλικά. Since this last one is a negative statement, we need to say then or the before the verb μιλάω. Here you can also notice what we mentioned before. The personal pronoun εγώ, that is, I, is not used since the ending of the verb shows that it is the first person. Now it's time for Chris's insights. For those of you who are not only English speakers, you can obviously use this question with any language you need. Greek people study other European languages, so maybe you will get lucky. Just substitute Αγγλικά with Italica for Italian, Ρώσικα for Russian, Ισπανικά for Spanish, Γερμανικά for German. In this lesson, we mentioned the expression συγγνώμη. But did you know that this could also be used as an apology? In the next lesson, we will learn this and other ways to apologize in Greek. It's never too late to show your good manners with Greek people. I'll see you in our next Ελληνικά σε 3 λεπτά lesson.
Want more Greek videos like this? Subscribe to our channel.
Γεια, λέγομαι Χρυσή. Hi everybody, I'm Chrissy. Welcome to GreekPod101.com's Ελληνικά σε 3 λεπτά. The fastest, easiest and most fun way to learn Greek. In the last lesson, we learned the phrase συγγνώμη, μιλάτε αγγλικά. Excuse me, do you speak English? We mentioned the word συγγνώμη, which means excuse me in Greek. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use συγγνώμη and other words when apologizing in Greek. We should use συγγνώμη in formal situations such as when we are ordering something in bars or restaurants. For example, συγγνώμη, ένα καφέ παρακαλώ. Excuse me, a coffee please. We can also use it when asking a question. συγγνώμη, πού είναι η Ακρόπολη? Excuse me, where is the Acropolis? Sometimes we also hear people say παρακαλώ, which literally means please or I beg, but means the same thing as συγγνώμη when you want to draw somebody's attention. We always use this phrase in formal speech. Παρακαλώ. The informal way to say excuse me is με συγχωρείτε. Με συγχωρείτε. Just like συγγνώμη, we can use με συγχωρείτε when asking a question or when apologizing. All of these phrases can be used for either excuse me or I'm sorry. But if you really want to apologize for something, it might be better to use a different phrase. That phrase is λυπάμαι. It means I'm sorry or I'm sad and can be used in both formal and informal situations. Λυπάμαι. Like in other cases we have seen, the verb λυπάμαι, I'm sad, or I'm sorry, is used without the personal pronoun εγώ, I. By just saying the verb, the listener understands you are talking about yourself. Now it's time for Chris's insights. Please remember that in Greece, if you accidentally bump into someone, you don't say, I'm sorry, λυπάμαι. Instead, we say συγγνώμη, excuse me, or με συγχωρείτε, forgive me. In our last lesson, we learned how to use συγγνώμη, με συγχωρείτε, and λυπάμαι when apologizing in Greek. In this lesson, we are going to learn something even more practical, how to count from 1 to 10 in Greek. And we'll learn them all in 3 minutes. 3 λεπτά. Are you ready? Let's start. 1. 1. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great job! What is before ένα? Do you know? Yes, it's 0. In Greek, it's μηδέν. Μηδέν. So now, you can count pretty much anything and do other useful stuff like giving your friends your cell phone number and writing down theirs. Let's see how to do that in Greek. We'll use the phrase «Ο αριθμός μου είναι», which means «my number is». Ο αριθμός μου είναι. Ο αριθμός μου είναι 6, 9, 7, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. Can you read it by yourself? 6, 9, 7, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. Okay? Great! Now it's time for Chris's insights. Like most words in Greek, numbers are gender sensitive. The numbers we learn today are used when counting neuter objects. The masculine and feminine numbers are almost the same, but with slight differences for the numbers 1 through 4. We won't get into this for now, since with the neuter numbers, you can do most things. Even if you use the wrong gender, Greeks will understand you. In the last lesson, we learned the numbers from 1 to 10. Have you forgotten? Here, I'll tell you again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now, let's continue from 11. 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19. And finally, we have 20, 20. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. These numbers may seem harder to remember, but you really just have to memorize 11 12 and 20. All other numbers are a combination of 10, which means 10, and the numbers from 3 to 9. It's like saying 10, 3, 10, 4, etc. Let's not stop at 20. Counting to 100 is super easy. Now I'll give you the tens. 30, 3, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, 100. You'll have to memorize these numbers, but the good news is creating compound numbers is very easy. They are formed by putting the tens in front of the single digits. This means, for example, that 34 is 34 and 87 is 87. Yes, that's right. Exactly like English. Let's try those combinations. 34, 34, 87, 87. Got it? I told you it was really easy. Now it's time for Chris's insights. The pronunciation we have used in this and the previous lesson is the standard pronunciation for numbers. Sometimes, though, especially in casual conversation, Greeks also use efta instead of epta, ochto instead of okto, and enja instead of enea. So if you notice someone using these words, don't be surprised. They're exactly the same as the ones you have learned. Actually, yours are more correct. In the last two lessons, we learned how to count in Greek from 1 to 100. I hope you spend some time practicing the numbers because they will come in handy in this lesson. Why? Because we will learn how to go shopping in Greece. Before we go, you need to know how to say how much is it. Πόσο κάνει? Πόσο κάνει? Are you ready to go shopping in Greece? Let's go! You see something you like and want to ask the shopkeeper how much it costs. The first thing to say is παρακαλώ. Do you remember what that means? It means please, usually, but in this situation it means excuse me. Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτό? Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτό? The word αυτό we use in this phrase means it or this. We don't actually say the name of the object. If we want to be more specific, we must know if the object is feminine, masculine, or neuter, convert the word αυτό accordingly, and add the object itself. Let's say we are asking about a hat or a καπέλο. In Greek, a hat is neuter, so we will use the phrase αυτό το καπέλο. Let's try it. Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτό το καπέλο? Excuse me, how much is this hat? Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτό το καπέλο? And skirt is a feminine noun. Φούστα. Let's try that too. Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτή η φούστα? Excuse me, how much is this skirt? Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτή η φούστα? Finally, let's also try a masculine noun, like a lighter, αναπτήρας. Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτός ο αναπτήρας? Excuse me, how much is this lighter? Παρακαλώ, πόσο κάνει αυτός ο αναπτήρας? At this point, the shopkeeper will answer by saying the price like 15 ευρώ or 20 ευρώ. The word euro means, of course, euro, and as for the number, you already know that, don't you? In case you have forgotten, 15 means 15, and 20 means 20. Now it's time for Chrissy's insights. Even though it is not very polite, the fastest way to ask how much something costs is by saying the word αυτό, meaning it, and adding the word πόσο, meaning how much, like this. Αυτό πόσο. In this case, even though you're using the neuter it, αυτό, you can also use it with masculine and feminine nouns. If you don't know the object's gender or you are in a hurry, you can do this. Greeks do it all the time. At this point, can you count euros in Greek? We are going to learn how to do this in the next lesson. After that, you'll have no excuse for not going out on a shopping spree in Greece. I'll be waiting for you in our next ελληνικά σε 3 λεπτά lesson. Θα τα ξαναπούμε στο επόμενο μάθημα.